All right, so the lab itself will not take too long. If you have a lab instructor who has already boiled the the water ahead of time, then that's great, and you will probably find it in the hood in these containers. If you don't, then you need to set up some water to boil. For your group of 4, you want to use a 600 milliliter beaker, and you want to put 450 milliliters. It needs to be DI water. Like over by the sink, there's those big containers of DI water. Like that's what you need, is the big DI water. And you need to boil it for 10 minutes. What it is that water actually has some dissolved carbon dioxide in it, and that gives it a pH. Since we're going to be adding water to all your stuff, you don't want to use something that already has a pH. You want it to be neutral. So once it boils and cools, then you're ready to do the experiment. And like I said, your lab, whoever's running your lab may have already done this for you and let it cool like just a little bit before lab, or they may not have. So if they haven't, you should come in and get your water boiling immediately. Like very first thing, run in, immediately do that. Make sure in this lab that you're using nitrile gloves once you start handling the salts. So I've got over here, I've got a salt in a tray. And the idea is that at your lab bench, let's say that you have 4 partners, there should be 4 different salts. 1, 2, 3, 4 at your bench. Again, they should be different. Each lab person is in charge of making one salt solution themselves. So while I have the NaF for this one, it might be that someone else has, NH4Cl or something. So I'm doing the examples though with NaF. It won't necessarily be in this kind of a container, but it'll be at your bench. So then for the NaF, when I go in here, remember, I already did the calculations. So I'm using this number right here, this 0.44. That's the number I'm using, 0.44. And that's what I'm aiming for with my scale. So remember, when you're using these, make sure that you actually tare it first. So we got to set it over on there. And then usually the tare is on the right-hand side. And so you'll tare it, and then you pull it over, and then you put your salts into it. And the amount that I need to put in is 0.44. Now, this bench, this will measure a little bit more, but you can get really close to this number. I try to hit that number as much as possible. So if it's 10, 30, that's fine. Just make sure you hit that number as close as possible. So you can put it in there. There will be a line because every person on the bench, there's only like 4 or 5 of these. So again, if you get there a little bit early, as soon as your water's boiling, or check and see if there has already been water boiled, go ahead and go measure out your amount. Remember, 0.44 is just the amount for the sodium fluoride, not for the amount of all the rest of them. You've done the work ahead of time to figure out how much needs to go in there. So once you have that, take it back to your bench, get out of the way. Do not stand over there by the scales, and use there's like a little brush, especially if you made like a little bit of a mess. You don't want to get that in someone else's stuff. Just gonna brush it off and be nice about it. All right, so you're going to come over here. Here is your round bottom flask. You're going to take your salt that you just had. You're going to bring it over here, and you are going to kind of crimp the edges of it in so you can kind of squeeze it at this point. At this point, it kind of makes like a little boat, and you'll pour it into your round bottom flask. Now, if some of it is still on here, and there probably still will be some, don't use the squirt bottle. Like, you're going to be tempted to, but don't use it. What you want to use is that water that was boiled ahead of time over here. You can use a little bit of that to rinse it out. You want to use a dropper. So it's these little cheapy plastic droppers to do that. Just get some water in there and then get it in here. Now, you do want to get the funnel out for this next part because you want to add your DI water. So get your funnel, and this is before you put the lid on. You want to grab the funnel and you want to stick it at the top of the flask. It's not letting me. You're going to stick it in the top, and you're going to add your water, the boiled water, some of it. So you do need to get some from wherever it is if it's not already sitting at the bench. Please be careful not to pour, to spill it, or, because it's kind of a communal water source for your group right there. Now, you only want to fill it part of the way in. This is the way these round bottom flasks work. Only fill it part of the way in, only fill it part of the way in. Then put the lid on it. Then what you do is you grab it and you turn it. You especially want to invert it and flip it over and, turn it all around. I'm trying to grab my little thing that'll let me turn it. It's not letting me turn it. But you want to turn it upside down, move it around, shake it a bit, and then turn it back up. This line actually will be slightly less. Make sure all of your solid has dissolved before you do anything else. So all this has to be dissolved. before you add any more water. So once that's dissolved and you're really good at it, then you can add some more of the water from here, but be really careful because like if this is the line you want to hit, by the time you get to like right in there, it gets really hard to just pour it in through a funnel and make it hit the line. So you want to switch to the dropper. After you get kind of close-ish to that line, you want to switch to the dropper, and you want to use the dropper to go from the DI water and then put it in the boiled DI water and then put it till you get to your line. Put the lid on, turn it one more time, and then you're good. Your solution is made. If someone else in your group is having a problem at this point, go over and, you know, offer your advice. Your solution's happy. Make sure that theirs is too. Once all 4 are ready, wait till everyone is ready. Don't just do yours and like let someone else not see the results, because it's kind of cool to see the pH probes working. You want to set the pH probe, and you're going to pour a portion of this into a little tiny 50 milliliter beaker. You only need one, I'm sorry. But each person in the group is going to pour theirs into a 50 milliliter beaker. Make sure you keep them straight. And you're going to put the beaker right here. You'll put the pH probe in it. And then you'll get the reading on what your salt is. And you're going to record it in your report sheet right here. So you'll have that. So each person in your group you'll have a number for. Once you get yours done, walk around to the other groups and see if we've got enough salts, and we may not have, but for all the salts that you haven't already done the pH for, go around and see what everyone else got so you can fill in as much of this as possible. There's some that just won't be out, and so you can just put a line on them. The very last step you want to do is you want to take your calculated pH right here and the experimental pH, and you're going to do the percent error. And remember that percent error is always positive, always positive, always positive, because it's absolute value. So it'll be your calculated minus your experimental over your calculated times 100%. So you just want to do that for this math right here. And then you should be all the way through the lab and be good to go. Make sure you wash really well, and most of these salts can go down the drain. Just double check with your instructor to make positively sure.